Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. I'm Sara Jane. This is Gift of Healing TV. Third time lucky. I am joined by Heather Prince, and we are going to be sharing tonight what is ancestral healing. And I'm going to say hello to Sue, hello to Lottie, hello to Andrew, hello to Heather. Oh,
Hello,
welcome to the program, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me.
Right, let me introduce you to Heather briefly, and then we'll get into the program. Who is Heather Prince? Heather is 56 years old and had a varied background before finding complementary therapies in 1997. She has worked in publishing in IPC magazines, was an interior designer, then a bookkeeper in her first husband's business. She is now a spiritual response consultant and calls herself the Root Master, as she is an expert in discovering the root cause of problems. Heather is a meditation teacher and author of I Am Indigo, The Rainbow Within for kids, and Kids Fruit Cookery book, as well as running self-development and other workshops, plus retreats. Heather has 3 children, 6 grandchildren, and 2 dogs that she loves walking in the local nature reserve. I'm assuming that's the dogs and not the kids.
Actually.
Hello, Heather. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing with us today.
Thank you for inviting me, Sarah. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's start by asking you to share a little of your story. If whether that relates to how you got started with all of this, especially obviously the ancestral healing, but just a little about you.
Okay, so when many years ago now, nearly 25 years I think it is, my friend from school, her husband was diagnosed with cancer. It had a huge catalyst effect on our crowd of friends, and I knew a lady locally that was a healer, and I said, I don't know what to do, and she said, well, why don't you come and join my circle and give absent healing? And at the time I didn't know what a circle was, I didn't know what absent healing was, and I went along, and to be honest I was quite spooked out. But I'd always been interested in the paranormal. I'd always kind of had a knowing without knowing how I know things, and my parents were very open to going to events where there would be somebody giving messages from the other dimension. And I watched a movie once with Barbara Streisand called On a Clear Day, and for those of you that have ever watched that movie, it's about somebody who gets hypnotized and in fact becomes someone from a past life. And those of you that read the books by Dr. Brian Weiss will know that that's exactly what happened to him in his work. And he then wrote from a scientific viewpoint, which I really like, the proof of the science mixed in with this woo-woo stuff that people say is weird. But actually, when it's scientifically proven, then, you know, you've got some concrete black and white evidence. And that was the beginning of my journey as a healer. And as the years went on, my youngest son was very different, and I went on my journey of discovering he's what is referred to as an indigo kid. And this therapy that I now do, this deep-rooted healing therapy, cleared his internal subconscious programming, which helped enormously in his life. And that's when I got on board and learned it, and then started to work from my kitchen table, and it just grew from there. And I've always been the kind of person that if someone's got a headache, and yes, they can take some paracetamol, but I'd want to know the root. Why did they have that headache? So this was, you know, perfect for me, and I love this work. I'm very passionate about it.
And I think that's just it, isn't it? With all of us that are therapists, we are passionate about what we do. We find something that helps people, and it's great. It's wonderful. But let's go into the ancestral healing. What is ancestral healing? Let's just ask the main question here, shall we?
So let's just explain initially about ancestral healing, and I'm going to refer to a note here so that I'm clear about it. It involves healing your ancestors' unresolved emotional issues, problems, or trauma. And in so doing, it releases you, the individual, from any energetic patterns that link you to them, patterns that can have an inhibiting or disruptive influence on your life today. And the healing process is important because we are impacted by emotional and energetic patterns from prior generations in our family. And some of these can create obstacles in our lives, blocking our pathway to joy, abundance, authentic power, and unlimited possibilities. And since energy is never lost, but simply changes form over time, emotional issues or problems that were not dealt with by your ancestors or not fully resolved can hover in your energy field today, creating an imbalance or what I call a roadblock, also known as a healing opportunity. So ancestral healing can transform energetic patterns that are not in your highest good or are preventing you from carrying out your soul's mission and life's purpose. And if you're experiencing recurring patterns where things get in the way of feeling satisfied or enriched or successful, the ancestral healing may be the missing link that can free you to attain personal fulfillment.
And obviously, yeah, all of us, and we don't know our ancestors, do we? At the end of the day, how far can any of us go back? You know, what did my grandfather do? Well, I think I know what both my grandfathers did, but beyond that, I couldn't tell you what they did. And as for going back to great grandparents or great grandparents, and I suppose what we've got to realize is, you know, we may be one person, but our parents had two parents and they each had two parents, and everything from a lot of people is coming in, and so it's knowing where that line is. And so it can be, and most people will research the male line, not so much the female line. So I've got Lottie here sort of saying, may she ask a question? Do you want to go into that question now? Or yeah, by all means, Lottie, ask a question. How does, let's ask the question while waiting for that to be typed in. How does ancestral healing work?
Okay, so the actual working of it is I use charts, and they're in here. There's over 30 different charts, and I work using a dowsing crystal. And if my client is in Australia, Canada, New Zealand, India, Cyprus, I've worked for clients all over the world, I'm linking in with their higher consciousness that I call the high self. And I make sure when I prep to work that there's only, it's like a chain, okay? It's like a chain. We only want 2 links in the chain. We only want 2. We don't want a great big long chain. We want accurate information from the highest spiritual soul level. So that's where we start. And then I find out from the charts of what's going on, and what they've inherited on the paternal side and the maternal side. And I've been doing this work now for nearly 20 years. And what I've discovered is it can go back up to 9 generations. You know, 9 generations. We don't need to know the details. I don't do regression. I can do regression, but it's not necessary. And people are quite fearful of what I do, but I don't hypnotize you. I don't take you back to that emotional time and you're sitting there, you know, going through the trauma again. I'm talking to you like, you know, you and I, Sarah, are talking right now, and I'm doing the clearing work with the crystal. And what happens is the crystal moves in a round and round motion when the clearing work is being done, because your high self has access to the level of the Akashic records, and every thought, every word, every action is recorded in that Akashic record, and the file is just picked up and put into a dead file. It never goes. So I always suggest to my clients, when you talk about what has been discovered, always use the past tense, because although we're here on the earth plane and it's linear timing, in the other dimension, it isn't linear timing, and we can bring that time into the present. So we always talk about it in the past tense, and that dead file stays in the dead file. And then a new program starts running on your inner hard drive. If you can imagine, we're all like computers, and our subconscious is that inner hard drive. And it's like, if anybody's ever, it's old fashioned now, anybody got a record that's been scratched, it's like having that scratch on the record, and you keep being stuck in that pattern, which might be, I don't know, self-destruction. It might be fear. It might be conflict. It could be many things that affect us in our daily life.
Okay, right. Well, we've got 3 notes from Lottie here. The last one says, okay, my question may be irrelevant. Okay, right.
Shall I read that? This seems to have a pattern in my life. I was in an emotionally abusive marriage with control over money. A family story is that my great-great-grandfather had an affair with the midwife, and because my great-great-grandmother didn't approve, he had her committed to an asylum, later marrying the midwife. Whoa. Apparently, my great-great-grandmother was the one who brought the money into the family, and she lost it. Wow, that certainly would have an impact, Lottie, on your life. And if you feel that is resonating with you, then definitely Ancestral Healing would clear the pattern there regarding control and really greed regarding money and manipulation there. So there's lots of energy going on there, which kind of we inherit. So yes, we inherit the color of our hair and the color of our eyes and the biological stuff, but in the DNA we can inherit a gift of playing the piano or singing or whatever it is, but we also download this other stuff. So yes, it could be very, very relevant. So no, Lottie, it's not irrelevant at all.
Right, thank you. Yeah, probably better you read it because it made it easier. Okay, yeah. So brilliant. So how to release yourself from family karma?
Yes. So there is an indication on the charts if there is karma involved, and that can be cleared as well. Also on the charts, we find out an individual's life theme and challenge. Excuse me. We can also find out from the charts an individual's programming, and we call that major programming. All of it's researched, and it's really goes deep. You don't have to understand it. When I write a report to someone, the process takes 90 minutes. I write a full report, and as a bonus, I offer your personal affirmation. And as a second bonus, I also offer you your own personal aromatherapy oil that would be of benefit to you, or even a Bach flower remedy if it comes through that would be of benefit to you. So there's a lot that goes into this ancestral therapy, as well as just clearing the stuff that is causing you current problems. And it's kind of like an onion, because in the first ancestral healing, we take off the outer layer of the onion and we deal with the initial stuff. And then I'm a bit like the dentist, where I suggest to people, come back and have a checkup in 6 months' time, because other stuff in life happens, and then you're ready to take off the next layer of the onion. But for clients who have a real issue, and one lady in particular had a specific issue which manifested into a frozen shoulder, and it went back to abuse. But because everything that I do is confidential, I'm going to stop there. But she worked with me for the core transformation program that I do, and she completely turned her life around 180 degrees. So there's different offerings that I do for clients, and it's bespoke to the individual and their needs.
Yeah. Oh, and I think that's just it, isn't it? Every complementary therapy, it should be about the individual. It's not, sort of everybody is the same, because we've all got different experiences. We've all had different experiences. So absolutely. And I think you've been working with it now for sort of so long that you've developed your own techniques within that, with the other things that you've learned. Most of us do. We've learned different modalities, and there are aspects from other modalities that we can bring into the main work that we find ourselves doing. We've got a comment from Malathi, and if it is the lady I think it is, she's in Sri Lanka. So welcome. Lovely to have you. My father repeatedly told that rich people are bad. And how many people have heard that? Sort of, money isn't good, money is evil. We hear that so often, and it's not money.
Absolutely. One of the charts that I do go to many times with most of my clients is blocks to our positive expression, and there is the chart. And at the bottom of the chart, I clear money blocks, because I work a lot with other coaches, other therapists that have an open mind regarding spirituality and understand the law of attraction and beliefs. So I have to clear a lot of beliefs that, yes, we've picked up from our main caregivers, that life is a struggle and money is hard to come by, and money is the root of all evil, and all of other people's beliefs that actually, when we really think about it, are they our beliefs? So I look at money blocks regarding income. So a lot of people come to me and they're really aiming for that 6-figure income, but they don't understand why they're not getting that 6-figure income. And we look at debt. We look at past debt and what their beliefs and their feelings are regarding the debt. And then we look at savings. We also, again, look at emotions and feelings about maybe the loss of savings or the guilt of not having any savings. We look at the nervous system. We look at the programmed beliefs. We look at the habitual self-talk, and we look at past traumas connected with savings. And then we look at income goals. What, feelings and emotions have you got when you think about income goals? And then we look at toxic money, and that's about the battle. Maybe there was money owed, maybe there was a legal battle, maybe you were cheated, and it comes with a price. So we look at all of those separate money blocks when we do ancestral healing.
And I'm assuming that also goes for love. Let's put it that way. Yes, but let's be blunt, sort of, when we're in relationships, we're taught, so many of us are taught, that it is not okay to think about yourself. Loving yourself? Come on, you don't love yourself. You give love to others, but you certainly don't give it to yourself. How many of us have been bought with that? You're not allowed to think about you.
Yes.
And so I suppose it's the same sort of thing as with money. It's a mental and emotional block of how we've been brought up to think about it.
Yes, absolutely, Sarah. And when I'm working with people that have had one relationship after another, when we actually write it down on a piece of paper, the person may have looked differently or been a different height or had a different colour hair, but the pattern has been repeated. We have this hidden antennae that we're not consciously aware about. And the key thing here, when we do the ancestral healing, I then follow through with my client to give them tools on how to help themselves move forward now that that program has been put into that dead file. And the main core root that I've discovered over the nearly 20 years of working is that until you love yourself, everything that's mirrored back at you by your colleagues, your partner, your children, is for you to learn to fully love yourself and be whole. And then when somebody comes in at the same magnetic level as you, you enhance each other. You are not completed. You're not a half looking for another half to be completed. It's not how we may have believed from other people. And I'm very keen to get life skills in schools and for the young generation now to learn to love themselves, because that will change everything in the future.
Oh, absolutely. It's the main thing. Love of self doesn't mean selfish.
No.
Love of self means that actually then we can truly give.
Yes.
And encourage others to love themselves. And it's about an honesty. That's what it's really about, isn't it? I don't know whether this is the right moment, because it's the 7 karmic shadows. So is this the right time to bring up about those?
Let me just refer to my notes here for you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Good. So there are 7 karmic shadows that are written into the history of our families. And they are abuse, addiction, violence, poverty, illness, abandonment, and betrayal. And it's really interesting, if anybody's watching here tonight, if you watch, I don't know if you get it abroad, but we've got a UK program called Who Do You Think You Are? And you find out that when the individuals go back in their family, there is one of these shadows that they discover. Betrayal is quite common, and it does run in families, even if they didn't know that their great-great-grandfather actually led a double life and betrayed their great-great-great-grandmother. Addiction's another one. It's not always addiction of drugs, but years ago people would have snuff. People would smoke roll-up tobacco, and that addiction can still run on. Abuse, very common, physical abuse and verbal abuse. Violence, going way back many years ago, there was a lot of violence, and it's still happening today, and we want to live in a world of peace. So no, violence is not the option. Poverty, yes, lots of us come from a background where our great whoever suffered with poverty, and you will certainly have money blocks in your current life. Illness, I'm told from my understanding that we do not inherit disease. But if you are told that every woman in your family gets breast cancer, they've already sowed the seed of fear and doubt. And when you water that with anxiety, oh yes, all of a sudden you've got it. But I am assured that we do not inherit it, but our thoughts and our beliefs and our language create it. So that's a strong one, isn't it? And abandonment. How many people feel abandoned by their mum if they've been adopted? You know, I've just been working with a young lady who is traumatized by being given up at birth, even though her parents who adopted her are wonderful, wonderful people. But that doesn't take away that the woman that carried her in the womb gave her up, and therefore she doesn't trust. And the main person she doesn't trust is herself. And that resulted in self-harm. So, you know, it goes back a long, long way.
Oh, and I, listening to what you're saying, I sort of look at what happened to me as a child, and I may not have been adopted. I very definitely grew up with my parents, but because I was hospitalized for 3 months at a time when parents couldn't stay with their children, of course, I felt abandoned.
Yes.
And that's going to, and going back to what Lottie was saying, I'm assuming that her great grandmother, or whatever the level was, that having had her mother be put in asylum, then she will have felt abandoned by her own mother. The fact that was out of her mother's control. And obviously nobody knows how she was brought up by the midwife, so there are in that family, there are abandonment issues going back. It doesn't mean that anybody was actually abandoned, but it felt like abandonment. And yet, who do you think you are? I know they do it in America, and I think they're just doing a series of it in Australia as well. So I know it's spreading throughout the world. And Lottie's actually just has put a comment. Gosh, have quite a few of those in mine. And Malathi said thank you, and Malathi said thank you as well. So now I don't know whether, because you said you might be able to do experience a demonstration. Is that something that you can do? Do you, folks, those of you that are listening live, anybody got any more questions? I know Malathi's put something down. I know Lottie's put something down. I know there's others of you there. Anybody got any questions? Please type them in and ask. We're quite happy for that. This is, as much as Heather's sharing, this is your program too. So please do. So they're all being quiet at the moment.
I completely understand that the work that I do is very confidential, and nobody wants to put up their hand and say, oh, in our family, someone we know had an affair, and that person was banished to Australia, and my great grandmother had to bring the child up but never told anyone in the family. There are skeletons in the cupboard, and I have to say that's why my reputation depends upon confidentiality, or I couldn't do this work. And that's why on my Facebook page at the Rootmaster One, lots of people do not comment or even like the stuff that I put out there, because they don't want to hold their hand up and say, oh, I'm in conflict, or my relationship is going pear-shaped right now. But I promise anybody listening to this, if you wish to talk to me, whatever you say to me is in confidence, and none of your personal stuff in your skeletons in your family closet will be shared whatsoever. So Lottie, I'm scared of having money in case it gets taken away. Does that make sense? Absolutely. That does make sense. Lottie, would you like me to see what program is running for you? And Marina, oh, thank you, Marina. Thank you for sharing that, Marina. It's lovely to know that you're watching and you have experienced ancestral healing. And again, whatever you share is not going to be mentioned in public. So Lottie, yes, you're scared of having money in case it gets taken away. So what I do, and I'm really sorry that you can't actually see what I'm doing here, but I'm using the crystal and I've got the charts here and I'm prepping to work for you, Lottie. And I'm making sure that I'm working with your higher self. And I'm just going to ask, what is the root cause of why she is so fearful of money? And right now it's showing me that you've actually got Siamese souls. Now, Siamese souls was a very common thing that my clients get, which is like paper dolls. And I don't know if you've ever used a scissors and you've cut out paper dolls and you pull them apart, and there's 9 identical dolls. Well, the Siamese souls is like that. So each of those souls will see things from a different perspective. So we're going to clear those and cut them so that you can see things from one perspective. Otherwise, it gets a bit confusing. So let's just clear that. And as we clear that, I'll just hold the crystal up so that you can see I'm linking in with your higher self, Lottie. Okay, I'm linking in with your higher self. And your higher self is going to your Akashic records, and they are cutting and clearing those Siamese souls. Okay. There we go. Lovely. And now, what is the root cause of why she's got this fear regarding having the money and it being taken away? So there's a master program running of discordant energy, and we will go and discover what that master program is of that discordant energy. And the crystal is moving to guilt. So can we clear that, or does that need research? And it needs research. So we're going to research, where does that guilt come from? And we're going to keep it simple tonight. Is it the maternal or is it the paternal side? This is coming from your paternal side, Lottie. So there is guilt that's been inherited from your paternal side. Can that now be cleared? Yeah, and the crystal's moving round, and we're requesting that your high self, I'm just the facilitator, okay, I'm just the facilitator. I don't do it because it would drain my energy, and your higher self is doing all the work by clearing this guilt for you. All right, and there you go. Just a small demonstration of how ancestral healing works. I hope that that made sense. And Paula, you're asking why you would love to know why I seem to stop myself stepping into my power. Okay, Paula. So let's just prep to work for Paula, please. We'll just hold the crystal up so that you can see, even if you can't see my charts here sitting on the desk. And who are we working with? Lovely. And what's the root cause of why Paula is fearful of stepping into her full power? Okay. Okay. And what is the program running? Paula, you have an experience in the past of trauma. Is that coming from the maternal line or the paternal side? Again, the paternal side. On the paternal side, going back, let's find out how many generations, please. Going back 5 generations, there was trauma of them stepping into their power, and maybe they were killed because of their power, and especially the healers and spiritual coaches that I particularly work with may have been labelled witches. They may have been burnt at the stake and now suffer with asthma. They may have been drowned in the local pond and now they're frightened of swimming or swimming underwater or going in a submarine. They may have been pushed off of a mountain or a cliff, and now they're really fearful of heights and don't like to go across high bridges or go to the top of tall buildings. So all of this is past life experience, and also it can be due to the ancestors as well. Malathi, please check for my money problem. All right, can we just prep to work for Malathi? Okay. And who are we working with? Okay. And the money problem. Right, let's just find that chart. Which is the money problem? Is it income? No. Is it debt? No. Is it savings? No. Is it income goals? Okay, there's a block to your income goals, Malathi. Is it toxic money? No. Okay. So very quickly, Malathi, because, you know, we can't go into it in too much detail tonight, please look at your emotions and your feelings regarding your income goals. Look at your beliefs about your income goals, and what do you say to yourself about your income goals? Do you say, oh, I'm never going to earn that, or I don't know enough, or I'm not enough? Is that what you're saying to yourself? And are there any past traumas connected with your income goals? Okay. And Andrew, you've got chronic fatigue, so let's just have a look. Can we just prep to work for Andrew, please, and work with his higher self? Thank you. What's the root cause of Andrew's chronic fatigue? Okay, we're going to another chart. Let's have a look at this chart. Is it on the outside or the inside of this chart? Okay, so this is about memory clearing, Andrew, and it goes deep. It's called creator consciousness. So I'm just going to zero clear that for you right now. And that's through the spiritual soul level, which is called the Godhead. So we're just going to clear that memory clearing. Okay, first of all, and then we're going to ask, what is that root cause of his chronic fatigue, please, in his current life? And again, there is a program running. And what is that program running? It's inheritance. Okay, did he inherit it from the maternal or the paternal line? Paternal line again. Strong, isn't it, that paternal line tonight? And how many generations back? 5 generations back. Okay, so why has he inherited that? Because of what? Because of, let's find out. Because of there was a block to freedom. So somewhere in your family, Andrew, there was a block to freedom. Now, I'm not going to pre-guess, Andrew, but it could be anything over history where your family experienced something that was constraining to them, and they didn't feel the freedom to be who they truly were. And when we look back over history and we see various religions at war and various countries at war, and things that happened, then, you know, people sometimes didn't have the freedom to even share who they truly were, or what their beliefs were. So there's some block to that, and that's coming up with you with chronic fatigue. So Lottie, the Siamese twin bit was incredibly interesting, as I've always looked at things from other people's perspective. Yeah, I mean, it gets very confusing, Lottie, when ourselves have all these different perspectives, and we just need to just focus on one. But obviously, when you look at other people and what they're going through, then of course it's lovely to stand in somebody else's shoes and have empathy and have understanding of what their life path is going through for their soul's growth and experience. But for you, it's important to see things clearly, with clarity, from just one perspective. Paula, can anyone get copies of the charts? If you train with the main board of the Spiritual Response Association in America, you can enroll on their training, and then you will receive the charts. Or the person who actually began this work was a lovely minister called Robert Detzler, and I was very blessed to meet him when he came over to London a few years ago, but unfortunately he's now passed on. But if you go on to Amazon, I'm sure you will discover the books written by Robert Detzler.
Brilliant.
All right. Brilliant. Okay.
No, excellent. Excellent. I think we've covered everything. Oh, I'm getting double feedback here.
Okay.
Is there anything, and thank you folks, thank you for all your questions, thank you Heather for that, and I think it's given people a real feel, and I know it's only a very quick feel, and I know what you're saying about the in-depth that it needs to go to,
Yeah.
but it's great that, you know, it did go back several generations, so it created the ancestral yeah, and Lotte says yes, thank you Heather, and Paula says thank you as well. I hope I've asked all the questions, but is there anything more that you want to share with us, because I know we're coming to the end of the program?
Yeah, I think that we can say that when the ancestral healing is done, you're not only clearing your Akashic record, you're clearing your ancestors' Akashic record. And for those of you that have got children of your own and grandchildren, you're clearing them as well. So this stops. And that's why I love it so much. Because, you know, like a dentist will do the work and check the decay, so does ancestral healing. And that's why my clients, as I say, come to me every 6 months, every 12 months, for us to see, well, what's going on now? And we then have the tools on how to take it forward positively. And ancestral healing heals the previous line and the future line, and I just think that's amazing, don't you?
Well, I think it's brilliant because, okay, you can go the masculine line, the feminine line, it doesn't matter, paternal, maternal, but you don't need to know their history if you wish to then go and research it.
Yes.
And I know my sister's been doing research on our own family, and she's come up with things. You know, there were hints of things that one of our grandmothers told us. You know, sort of in it. But okay, my father's mother actually died when he was 5. So sort of trying to find out much about her, that her herself isn't easy. But yeah, it's lovely. And sort of it.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I can just see Lottie's asking a question, and Lottie's saying, how many sessions does it take on average? So it's very awkward to say, Lottie, but I'm going to ask your higher self. Okay, I'm going to ask your higher self, how many ancestral healing sessions would Lottie need to clear her ancestral stuff? Lottie, you would need 2. Okay, so what I suggest to you is to contact me after the program and we can take it further. And I always, you know, say to each individual that the healing work is great and it does the job of getting rid of those programs, but if you've got things that you need to work on, having the core transformation program gives you the accountability and the support, and all of that information is on my website, www.therootmaster.co.uk. So if you've got any more things that you want to know about, then of course just email me. Thank you.
Brilliant. In fact, I'm just putting that in there for those that can see the chat, so that they can look, so that it's up there for you folks, and you should be able to just click on that and it might take you straight through. I will put it under the video so that folks can get it. So it's www.therootmaster.co.uk.
Yes.
And please go and check it out. Oh, what does Andrew? You just said, and for me.
Okay, right. let's just check for you what your higher self feels would be the amount of ancestral healing you would need to rid yourself of your current chronic fatigue, and it would be 3. It would be 3. Okay, because as I said, it's like the onion, and we take off one layer at a time, and it doesn't have to be once a week. you know, it's down to you. It can be once every couple of weeks or once every 3 weeks, and you can take this in your own time and trust your intuition of what feels right for you. And Paula, how many ancestral healings does Paula need? It's indicating 4, Paula. So when it goes to that level, then I would suggest that you take a look at the core transformation, because that is a bespoke 90-day turnaround. Okay, hope that helps. Thank you, Sarah.
Heather, thank you so very much, folks. You know, really, this has been fascinating, and I know this is my first dive into this. And thank you to those of you that have been here and have been so instrumental in the asking of the questions, because it makes the programs, it means that we are answering the questions that you want answered, which is brilliant. And so I'm really, really pleased, and thank you for that. To those of you watching live, for those of you watching the recording, I really hope that I know you're not involved in this in per se, but I hope that what's shared tonight helps you to think, this is something I want to investigate further, and that you will connect with Heather. Ask the questions. Andrew's just said fab. Malathi said thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Heather. And Paula's just said thank you. Talk soon.
Can I also say to all of you, thank you so much for giving your time tonight to be here with Sarah and I, and that if you wish to book a clarity conversation with me, it's free. So, you know, get on my site, download my free ancestral ebook, and that would take you to a booking calendar where you can book in a free clarity conversation with me, and I'm more than happy to talk to you. Okay, I look forward to that.
Brilliant. Laura, Luen, I think, says thank you, Heather and Sarah. Lottie says thank you, Heather and Sarah. And Marina says, Heather, could you say where you did your training again? Thanks, Marina.
It's the Spiritual Response Association. It's based in America, and they look over the training. So I like that, because you're verified by them. And then there are people worldwide doing this beautiful, deep-rooted healing therapy. Brilliant.
Brilliant. Anything that we've missed? Is there anything you want to add just at the end?
I just want to say that each of us, you know, enter this lifetime, and we're pushed into the world, and people sometimes say to me, you know, why is this happening to me? But we do choose our families. You might think, oh my God, why did I pick a narcissistic mother? Because so many of my clients have got narcissistic mothers. But you choose that person for your learning, for your experience, for your soul growth. And we choose our siblings, and you know, they say, oh, you know, you can choose your friends, you can't choose your family. But on a deep level, actually, we do, because we've come here to learn from them. So our ancestors have been chosen by us to experience, and if we can clear them and us and the future generations, how marvelous is that?
Absolutely. Thank you so very much, Heather. It's really been an absolute pleasure. It really has. We've got a couple of programs for you next week. And so I hope you will join us for those on Wednesday and Thursday. And the information is all on the Gift of Healing TV website, giftofhealingtv.com. So please, folks, do go to that. And anybody who's, the replay of this, you can watch this whenever you like. I will put it up on the catch-up pages. It will be shared on Gift of Healing TV. And I hope that you'll be sharing it as well, Heather. Folks, thank you. Heather, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me.
Love, peace and light to you all. Namaste.
Namaste. God bless.